when things are really hard, what questions can I ask myself to move through that situation?
We're so glad that you're here because you're choosing to thrive in your relationship.
Guys, welcome to The Betrayed, the Addicted, and the Expert, a Beyond Enough production.
Hi, I'm Ashlyn, the once betrayed.
I'm Kobe, the once addicted.
And I'm Brandon, the expert.
And he's definitely an expert.
You've been working to help couples with their extreme challenges for like 15 years, right?
Yeah, a long time. And I'm glad that I'm here with you guys sharing your vulnerable story. And I hope that it helps our listeners as well.
Absolutely. And if you need some help getting started, we have a free resource over at beyond-enough.com/step 1.
And that's 1, the number. It provides the first key steps to healing your relationship, regardless of how tough things are right now.
All right, guys, let's roll.
All right. That's a good question, Kobe. Quick review first. This review says, I've been listening since nearly the beginning of this podcast. I'm at a very different place in like now than when I started, but continue to listen because the information is valuable for anyone that's trying to better themselves. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I think everybody's kind of in a different place all the time because we're always changing, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I love to hear that because what that really does speak to is, and I hope that everybody who is been listening keeps listening. But here's that, because what it sounds like from this review is that this individual is experiencing various seasons in recovery.
Yes.
And I want to reiterate that is a thing, to experience various seasons, because as you skill up, as your mindfulness increases, as you just keep the focus on you can totally change for the better and move into different seasons where you're not facing like the grind of the pull to act out.
Right.
Or you're not facing the imminent threat of betrayal in your relationship.
Yes.
So those things can happen. They do happen. So
I think that, the feedback that we get about the podcast, Kobe, I just want to speak to this really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
If you really listen to us, we have almost 200 episodes now. You realize that our podcast is not about sobriety. So it's not about, like I always like to say, just not touching your penis.
Right.
Or it's not about just not cheating on your spouse or not being stuck in the fear cycle and healing from betrayal. It's about so much more than just those things.
Yeah.
And it's about, I really appreciate that review, because if you listen to the principles of what we talk about, principles of acceptance, principles of being authentic and having boundaries, self-care, all of those things will better anybody's life, no matter what you've been through, whether you've been through betrayal or not. So I'm glad that she's still listening, because we're going to continue to talk about those type of principles going forward. And I think we could talk about those things for the rest of our life.
Right? Because those principles are going to show up in various seasons. There's going to be opportunities for me to leverage the skills and the level of mindfulness, the connection to myself in so many different seasons of life.
Yes.
And that's the good part about it is that recovery, like you said, it's not about don't do the thing that hurts me and my partner. It's I haven't emotionally and mentally developed skills.
Right.
And now it's time to develop those.
Right.
And as much as I'm compelled to.
Right. Because
things are really hard. And that kind of tees up a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. But I want to just say this, guys, I am here.
You're alive.
Moreover, I'm actually here in the studio,
which is weird.
Brandon.
Like he's in the flesh. He's a real person.
I know, right?
We haven't recorded in person for over a year
because of COVID-19. Yeah. So it's almost like a new experience again.
I know, it's a little strange, Kobe.
But yeah, here I'm happy to be here. Ashlyn's been here the last couple of episodes, and again, we've just been taking care of ourselves and giving ourselves a little bit of a break, but just happy to be here because, I mean, as far as life is concerned, and when I say we're taking care of ourselves, we're definitely holding on to the principles of recovery that have guided us. Like that's still super focused for me. Still working groups, one-on-ones, all those things.
Right.
It's just sometimes in life when things get heavy, you have to just take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And in part, that's been saying, hey, we've had this beautiful long season of doing episodes week after week with without like a second season, whatever. Just need a little dance space, and
Right.
so
here you are, and we
here
got
I
a
am,
great topic,
and we're going to
today.
do it today.
Yeah.
So when things really are hard, and this is a thought that that has crossed my mind recently. What questions can I ask myself when I'm going through a hard time to really move through it, rather than do what I historically did, which is ran from it?
Well, so Kobe, this is a great question because it definitely can fill an entire episode, if not more, of content. Because the first thing that happens when you're going through a hard time,
Mhm.
whatever it may be in life, maybe you're stressed out about work, or you're having problems in your relationship, or money, or whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
One of the first things that happens is we experience emotion. We experience some kind of stress. It can lead to other emotions like frustration, loneliness, sadness, anger. We experience emotion. And so when you stop to ask yourself questions about what you can do to move forward, it's sometimes hard to do that unless you learn how to stop and get mindful and get aware of where you're at emotionally and what's going on with you emotionally. So one of the first questions that you would ask is, what am I feeling?
Yeah, that's
right.
that's super, super important.
And why?
And I think that this can be kind of tricky too, because what am I feeling would really compel me to go down the road of like, what emotions am I feeling? Right? Is that
That's exactly what I'm saying.
okay?
But I'm not asking the question, what should I be feeling?
Okay.
It's, what emotions am I feeling?
Okay.
So if something happens, if you're telling yourself, I should be feeling okay right now. Well, if you're not, you're not.
Yeah.
So what emotions am I feeling?
I think
right?
the real important part about your question, because I that was me, Brandon, for years, where I interpreted any hard feelings to feel for me, I felt like I was at fault, or I was in the wrong because I was feeling those emotions.
So right from the get-go, Kobe, what you just said is important, because from the get-go, you're already taking your emotional response and you're judging it.
Yes.
And you're trying to shift it or change it into what's appropriate or what it should be, or else you're hiding it.
Yes.
And none of that stuff is going to help you actually process it and feel it and work through it.
Okay. So I think the second question then after yours, which is like, what emotions am I feeling? What am I actually feeling is, am I judging myself because of what I'm feeling?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Am I right or wrong? Am I good or bad? Am I good enough?
Does Spike come in right there and say, you're in a vulnerable, hard place right now, so let me really take you on a ride here.
Yes.
And take you further and further down.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And especially when there's hard times, and when hard times can develop conflict, right? Because not every hard situation is enveloped in conflict, right?
No, absolutely not. Right.
But if it is, then it makes it even more complex because there are others involved.
So you're saying when you throw the relational piece in, so you're already having emotion, you're already judging yourself and wondering if you're okay. And now you throw a relational piece in where somebody, maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's a mother-in-law or whatever, is saying, you're bad, you shouldn't be feeling that, you're wrong, I'm right.
Totally.
It amplifies those shame triggers in that Spike narrative.
Yes.
While you're feeling all those emotions.
Yes.
Right.
And that's, I think that's like, that begs another question, which is right. Okay. What emotions am I feeling? Am I judging myself because of those? And what part of the thoughts in my head are Spike and what parts are not? Yeah. So like, what's the lie versus what's the truth?
But here's the thing, Kobe. I want you to be careful with what we're saying here, because I could have on the other end, I could have the worst person ever. So let me explain.
Okay.
On the other end, I could have somebody saying, you suck, Brandon. You're the worst. You're awful. You're wrong. You blankety blank.
Okay.
Right. They could be saying all of those things. They could say whatever they want to say, and that's a reflection of them.
Yes.
So whether I choose to believe Spike in that moment or not actually has nothing to do with them. So we can't blame
Yeah,
them
yeah. I see
for
that.
me going on a shame spiral and blame them for saying, well, you're difficult and you're making me not cope with this very well because I'm getting caught up in drama because of you. Rather, and I think this leads to another question is, okay, how do I take accountability for what I want to do or create in this space of struggle that I'm in?
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Because I know for me, based on what you just said, like whenever there was conflict with Ashlyn and I, and this is going from back to the very beginnings of our relationship, because I had shame in my head about acting out, about living a double life, like she better not find out because if she does, she will leave.
Right.
That was this really challenging place because I felt inadequate, unworthy, unjustifiable to feel what I was feeling.
There's this low grade, I'm a piece of crap.
Yes, exactly.
You guys, I want to tell you something I told Kobe last week. I told him I will not have discussions about how he's a douche anymore. but I'm serious.
Yeah.
Because I am sick and tired of this low grade, I'm so broken.
Yeah.
And because of what we're talking about right here, Kobe, is like, if the relationship comes in, let's say Ashlyn's triggered and she's emotional and she says something to you.
Yes.
You're going to have a hard time coping and moving through yourself if you get caught up in the spike narrative that now you think Ashlyn is driving home.
Yes, totally. 1,000%. And we did that dance forever. And I didn't feel like I had a voice because of what my internal struggle was.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And because of that totally allowed Spike to say, like, who are you to have a voice amidst conflict with your partner?
So, okay, so now, and this is a specific kind of scenario.
This is
where
we've gone niche.
Yeah, niche into a relationship piece. But now you're triggered, you're judging yourself for the emotions you have.
Yeah.
You're triggered into your shame and you feel like Ashlyn is actually believing, and I'm not saying she is or she's not.
Yes.
But you're feeling like she's actually believing the spike narrative that you have. So what you're saying, Kobe, is you're so far gone now from stopping and working through the pain or the struggle because you're spiraling now in shame, like so far gone. So
I'm not in reality, just to be super clear.
Not in reality.
I'm not in reality about my identity.
Right.
Okay. And I'm not in a place where I can adequately sort through the emotions to see what's truth and what's not. But I need to get there.
Okay. So you just brought up another question. So, okay, where can I take accountability? Where's my ownership?
Yes.
The next question is, what is reality? Like, let's stop and get grounded. What is reality?
And is that an easy question though, Brandon? Because that sounds like I might need some help in that moment to figure that out. Right?
Kobe, you saying that is so there's skills with DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, and what these skills are is she has things like, do you remember those like little koosh balls?
Oh yeah.
So
squishy
balls.
Yeah.
So Marsha Linehan.
Did you really just say that? In this really funny voice, squishy balls.
Marsha Linehan, she has these skills where she has like a Tupperware thing where there's like, things that you can grab and hold and feel. And you think about that, that's really weird, right? What's she doing? Why does she have those things?
Is that like another way to ground yourself?
Yeah.
Like taking off your shoes and walking through the dirt or the sand or the grass?
Yeah. So when you say I might need some help, I might need something beyond myself. Like you can sit and tell yourself all day long, okay, like I'm not bad, I'm good. You can sit and say that all day long.
I can say it in my head, but I won't be able to feel it in my heart unless I do some additional work. Right?
Yeah. So use your senses, ground yourself. Sniff some essential oils, right? Listen to some music. Call a friend who's not going to amplify your emotions, but just let you talk and ground you and help you get back to reality.
I think that piece that you just said, Brandon, about as far as like calling a friend who will not let you continue on the current trajectory, like spiraling in shame. That's really, really, really important because that demands like a specific understanding and relationship where you're like, look, I'm not here to have you like be on my team.
Yes.
I need you to see my part.
Yes.
So finding somebody who can really do that for you objectively is paramount.
Well,
Is it not?
there's two skills that a good support person will have.
Okay.
Is they'll hold space
Mhm.
and then they'll be honest,
Okay.
or hold you accountable.
Yeah.
So they'll hold space and you'll really feel validated, loved, understood,
Yeah.
and they'll help you stay grounded in reality.
Okay.
So when they can do those two things,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
they're actually helping you process through
Yeah.
where you're at. They can spin it different ways. You know, most of the time, if you call them and you say, I feel like a total loser,
Mhm.
they're not going to say, yeah, you're a loser.
Yeah.
They're not going to say that. But they very well will say, yeah, your partner sucks, or yeah, you have a right to be angry or mad
Yeah.
or deflect or whatever,
Yeah.
because it's easy to validate those things and create some connection, right?
Yeah. Totally.
But instead of amplifying that, somebody could just say, man, I know how it feels to be a loser.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
that sucks. Talk to me about that.
yeah.
Where are you at? And then you might cry, you might just talk, process. And then once that happens, they can say, but you know what? You're not a loser. Stop believing this crap.
Yeah.
Like, I love you and let's do this. Like, you're okay.
All
So-
this reality check.
Yes, reality checking.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
Sometimes we just need help in order to see what reality is.
Right.
And I think that's another really good question. Like, you already said that. Like, what is reality here?
Right. What
the
is
question
reality?
to
And how
have.
can I find it?
Exactly. And there might be some people might be in a place where if they just have enough time to internally process, they can work through that.
Oh, absolutely. And
Right?
it depends on the intensity of the trigger that you're
Okay.
really, like if something hard might happen in my life and I might go up to my bedroom and lay on my bed and process it and
Uh-huh.
release it and deal with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't need to ask all these questions and
Yeah.
do all this self-care, but sometimes I do.
Yeah.
And sometimes those tools and those skills are really important.
Mhm.
And so the more you can have in your toolbox, the better.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So that also begs the question, though, Brandon, of being able to understand, like, what do I need in order to effectively process this and to feel through it so I can get to a level head?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I love that, Kobe.
And so sometimes
I don't think many people think that.
say that again.
I don't think many people stop and think, what do I need here to actually work through this? Like what recovery capital, if we want to call it that, or,
yes.
or what support system, what space, what time,
Yeah.
what therapist, what do I need here? People don't stop and think that very often. They just live in the suffering and the struggle and
That's like a gerbil wheel that just
I
never
know,
lets you
it
out.
just goes and goes.
Yes, and that's exactly where I was. And what I figured out for me is I had a really hard moment on Saturday, and I knew that I hadn't had my workout in yet, and I've been on this like little kick as of late to ride a Peloton bike or a spinning bike. I warm up and then I turn the resistance up like 70 to 80 out of 100.
Nice.
And then I just stand up and I just grind through it. I have AirPods in and I'm listening to heavy music that I can just grind through it. And I put my hood over my head. I wear a hoodie and I just grind it out. I'm not there to like go so many miles, but that for me, I know in this season of life right now is an outlet. It's a way for me to have mental clarity.
you need it right now.
Stress relief and
Yes.
emotional release. So once I do that, then there's much more in my logical mind
Right.
that I have access to in order to process through that.
Right.
That's
excellent.
a huge one for me. But sometimes it's like listening to, there's a playlist on Spotify called Not Quite Classical that I really, really love. And
Nice.
that helps to soothe. Like that offers comfort. And I'll just do some kind of menial task in the house and turn that on. And sometimes it'll just be like, I need to color.
Right. Yes. Grounding.
Grounding.
Yes.
Exactly.
Mindfulness, grounding.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I want to add another question.
Do it. Let's get it.
And I totally just forgot it. So- all right.
Well,
so
we're talking about just activities, right? That we each do in order to find reality again, in order to think clearly again, in order to process through the shame. Because I mean, that's really what we're
Yes.
trying to do, is we're trying to work through. When we say work through, what questions can I ask to work through a hard moment?
I got it. I got
Okay.
it back. Thank you. See how Kobe can fill time? Like he's a master.
It's a bunch of rubbish.
But no, you helped me get back to it.
Okay.
So what causes our suffering is avoidance. That's what always causes our suffering. Pain is mandatory. Suffering is optional. And the optional part of our suffering is we decide to avoid the pain, and it then causes us suffering.
Yes.
And so the question is what am I avoiding? Like what when you get grounded, you're in reality and you're in a lot of pain, but you can't quite pinpoint it.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, what am I afraid to step into? What reality is really difficult for me, but it's reality?
Yeah.
What am I avoiding that's causing it? There's a ton of analogies here. If I had an infection in my arm and it's like my daughter got a sliver last week and she's screaming like, don't touch the sliver. Don't. I'm like, can I just get it out? No. And I'm thinking, I just picture this.
Was this Lacey?
Yeah.
Oh, she's so sweet, dude.
This big infection all over her hand because I just want to get the little sliver out.
Yeah.
But she doesn't want to face the pain of it.
Yeah.
To get the sliver out, and it's going to cause her an infection.
Okay.
So what pain do I need to step into? And what am I avoiding is an important question.
I think that what speaks to me about what you just said, Brandon, is going back to emotions, where if I'm not going to allow emotions to define me, if I'm not going to allow the emotions that I feel to be evidence of judging me, right? Then it stands to reason that the hard conflict in a situation is also something that's like, look, this has happened.
Yes.
I don't need to judge myself because this happened.
It happened.
It happened. Yes. This is something that I have to experience. And if I take that approach, like, okay, this isn't going to say that I'm the worst person ever or I'm the best person ever or whatever it is just is.
Yes.
Then it might be a little bit more easy to move through that moment to be, because what speaks to me from what you said about as far as the denial piece that comes in is I know for sure that my denial had everything to do with I'm the cause of this hard moment.
Right.
And therefore I would judge myself.
That's where you'd always get lost out of reality.
Yes.
Kobe.
When I make it about me.
Yes.
in the drama triangle to be the victim.
Yes.
For sure. I totally agree with that. And for me, that's part of it is, for me, a question to ask is, does this struggle define who I am? Am I judging myself because of this struggle?
Well, okay. So,
which is like super important to let myself off the hook so I can actually see reality.
Yes, Kobe. So this is the thing. And this is the thing that I think if most people could understand this, they could work through anything.
Okay.
And and shame is such an interesting one because I want to talk about what you just said, in that if you get grounded in reality. So let's say I have an emotion.
Yeah.
And it's fear, and let's say it's intense fear.
Yeah.
And then I grab a koosh ball, right? I color, I ground myself in reality. And then I ask myself, what am I avoiding? Our emotions, they're doing one of two things. They are either alerting us to something that is real.
Yeah.
So they're saying, deal with this. Like they're there to protect us, and they're saying, deal with this. That's awesome. I need to follow what my emotion is saying in order to not avoid and in order to step into it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's great. Thank you, emotion. If we have a lot of trauma, then our emotions actually sometimes take us out of reality. And if they take us out of reality, they help us to avoid dealing with what's causing the suffering. Wow. And this is what shame does.
Yeah.
So shame says, I think that I'm bad. My partner says that I'm bad. So I'm going to comply, or I'm going to become a jerk, or I'm going to do all of these things to not be vulnerable in this moment, because I'm believing a lie because of the trauma that's told me that I'm not enough and I'm not okay. So in those moments when the emotion is not grounded in reality, you need to do the opposite action of what the emotion's telling you to do in order to step into it. So, for example, Kobe, for you, if you spin off in shame, instead of believing that you're horrible, instead of complying, instead of
Yes.
just holding, it's actually stepping up,
Uh-huh.
having a boundary,
Yes.
being authentic, being empowered, being vulnerable in those moments.
Yeah.
That's stepping into it.
And for me to take that one step further, which is super important for me, is my throat chakra was always like stuck and stifled.
Shocker.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, like that's just funny for like 1,000 different reasons, dude. So for me, in part, a huge exercise is to just start the conversation.
Yes.
Is to just say what I'm feeling. And
Because what does your shame tell you to do?
to keep it in,
Yeah.
to not say
Shut
it.
up. You don't have a right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And the reality is, in those situations when those thoughts are spinning through my head, it serves no one for me to keep it in.
No, not you, not your partner, not your relationship.
No
one.
matter what relationship, no matter what role in life I'm playing, it will serve no one, whether that's with a boss, whether that's conflict with a coworker.
And then it causes
with-
suffering, right?
Yeah, just that's beautiful.
Yes.
I can either step up and I can pay for it now in a small, intense moment, or I can choose the lengthy, drawn out, miserable, albeit known,
Right.
place of I'm just not going to say it.
Right.
And I'll just sit in it, and I will choose to suffer in those ways needlessly, but I still choose that way if that's what I do. But what you said is just beautiful.
Right.
It's like so right where it needs to be.
But what you just said is beautiful in that you're saying, I choose to suffer, because it's a lot easier somebody who's steeped in a lot of shame and
Yes.
suffering to actually blame, to actually like say, no, I am suffering because they're making me suffer and there's nothing I can do.
Yes.
As opposed to the reason why we're asking all these questions today.
Yeah.
Every single one of these questions has to do with personal accountability
Yeah.
and your own power and your own ability to shift your reality.
Yes.
In
hard moments.
In hard moments. And it's a lot easier to get stuck
Yes.
at times.
Yes.
But it causes suffering.
And I liken this to football and just watching film after games. And I remember the very first game that I remember watching in this particular season. It was a loss. Maybe it was a win. It was a loss. And the coach who was running the film said, okay, this isn't about tearing anybody down or like, whatever, but let's watch this. And so the discomfort that took place in the game on Saturday followed us
Now you
all
all,
day
now
Sunday.
you all get to watch
And
what you
now we're
did.
going to, sit in the discomfort again. But that film session is imperative
Yes.
for change.
Yes.
And if a player blows a play, and I remember this one in particular play, I remember watching it, it's always in my head now. But that player who missed his assignment and caused a loss of yardage had to stand there in front of all of his teammates on offense.
Face it.
And face it.
Yes.
And be accountable. But once he did and he understood what his role was, guess what's cool is they moved on to the next play.
Well, here's
he learned from it.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go, Kobe. And I think that's one of the final questions. I think there's two final questions, but one of the final questions is, where's the growth?
Yeah.
What am I learning through this challenge,
Yeah.
through this struggle? Because, and really you could take it a step further and say, what's the purpose? And you could even take it further and say, what is God doing here? And you might not be
Yeah.
able to get to that answer because, you might look back on your life and realize, oh, that's why. Or, but in that moment, you can at least see, I could really learn this from this, or I
Yeah.
could grow in this way.
Yes.
So there's opportunity in this struggle right now for me.
Yeah. And I think that's another really critical piece of having some kind of accountability partner, shame partner, whatever the case is, someone who will help you to move through it. And I think that's one of
Yes.
the, if like, I know 1,000% that my sponsor, Rob, will always do the two things that you said. He will always validate and he will have empathy and he'll hold space for me.
Right.
But he will also say, now let's look at reality. What's your role and what's the challenge here that
Bring
you
it
can
back
see?
to accountability for you.
Exactly. Where are you in this?
Yes.
And I just know for sure, hands down, when hard situations come up, the best thing I can do is have a list of questions to ask myself so that I can learn from it, so that I don't avoid it and cause delayed pain.
Yes.
Not only to myself, but to others. Because if I don't take care of it in that moment, or at least to the best that I can,
Right.
guess what's going to follow me?
Right.
Is the denial and the pain that comes with it.
Yes. Now, Kobe, I want to maybe give a little caveat before we wrap up, and it's
Okay.
this. Painful things in life happen.
Yeah.
And, if someone I loved died, it's okay for me to stay stuck. I don't like the word stuck, but to really feel that pain for a while.
Mm.
It doesn't mean that I'm not moving forward. I'm grieving. And so there's a difference between allowing yourself to grieve and feeling intense pain in your life and staying stuck. And choosing not to grieve and go through that. So what we're not saying, Kobe, is we're not saying to anybody, hey, take accountability and you should never feel pain in your life. That's not what we're saying.
Totally.
We're actually saying, notice your pain,
Yep.
Step into it, process it, feel it, cry, talk to people, listen to music, work through it so that you can become stronger because of that pain.
Yes.
But that pain is real, and it's real for everybody in life is going to go through pain.
Yep. And we'll continue to feel pain until we decide that we want to grow through it.
Absolutely.
And mitigate the intensity and maybe the amount and the duration of. We might not be able to choose all those things.
Right.
But to our ability, because all we can do is worry about ourselves, then those are the things that we can do.
Yeah. That's it, Kobe.
This has been super helpful and very contemplative. But the cool part about this is that this is just like what you talked about at the very beginning in relationship to the review. This is a life skill.
Yes.
This is a life skill that has application no matter what role you play in the arena of recovery, outside the arena of recovery, whatever. And this is something that I lived without. And recovery, this is one of the very important gifts of recovery.
Well, addiction is the opposite of it. Addiction is avoidance of pain.
Yeah.
It's not working through things. It's numbing things out.
Yeah.
So
it's beautiful. Guys, if you've heard anything that you like, share this. Pass this on. You just don't know what kind of good can come from people
asking themselves hard questions.
Asking themselves hard questions. So thanks for being here, guys. We appreciate it.
See you guys.